Hi, you guys. It is Friday, and we are back with another movie review. Today, in this movie review, we are following a horror film. And as you can see by the title, I have chosen Candyman. The version of Candyman that I have selected is the 2021 version, directed by Nia DaCosta. And for this film, it was directed by Nia DaCosta. Was the first film directed by a Black woman to open at #1 in the United States at the box office. So awesome accolades for her. And let's go ahead and get into my thoughts on this film. So I typically do not watch horror films. And so I did some research on this film, which is the reason why I selected it for the movie review, is because I went to this website called Slate, and they basically rate the suspense, the gore, and the horror of it all. And it said it ranked right about in the middle, although it was a little gorish to me. Like, if you can see somebody's throat being cut, that is a bit gorish. So I would say if you are sensitive in that way, then it may not be a film that you want to watch, because there is a bit of gore in it. So let's get right into it. So that's the reason why I decided to watch the film. They said it was more of a thriller and not heavy on the horror. So I was like, okay, I can deal with that. And I also watched the film A Quiet Place, and I don't know, I was very intrigued by that film. And it was suspenseful, but A Quiet Place was higher on the list than this. So I was like, okay, cool, I can watch it. If I watched A Quiet Place, I can watch this film. So we went ahead and checked it. I went ahead and checked it out. Let's just go ahead and get into it really quickly. I love the artistic angles of the film. So the cinematography was beautiful. The lighting was on point, and the mood was very defined. I feel like they did an awesome job taking the time to light each scene, especially because it had this moodiness to it. And the angles that they decided to use really captured the canvas of the actors' faces and their complexions, and just the terrain of each one of the actors' faces. And I got that saying from Ava DuVernay. I went to see her while I was in LA, and she just said, just the beauty of being able to capture the actors' complexion and the terrain of their face. So that stuck with me. But I just thought the camera angles of us looking up at Anthony was kind of like trying to tell us something. And in the film, he is, so let me go through the characters. In the film, he's an artist. So the characters we have, let me get my list. Anthony, played by Yahya Abdul Mateen. I hope I'm saying his name correctly. So Yahya Abdul Mateen plays the role of Anthony. And then we have, oh my goodness, Tiana Paris. She plays Brianna Cartwright. So those are the two main characters, and then you have Tony Todd playing the Candyman. And so you have those characters. They're in a relationship, and so she is supporting him as an artist, and he's struggling. He's trying to figure out, okay, so what is my next showcase going to be about? And she's encouraging him, telling him that she believes in him, and he has it in him to create some awesome pieces. And so he hears this story about the Candyman. I'm really fast forwarding through this, but he hears the story about the Candyland from William Burke. So he, this we are the setting of this film. Sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. But the setting of this film is in Chicago. So we went from Louisiana, then we went to LA. Now we are in Chicago. So we're in the Midwest, and specifically the community within Chicago is Cabrini Green. So immediately when I started watching this film, I was like, isn't Cabrini Green torn down? Didn't they tear that down? But I was like, oh, I get it. It's very heavy in social commentary. So the social commentary on racism is very prevalent in this film. So they're making a point about gentrification and white supremacy and white people taking over predominantly Black areas. He finds out about Candyman, and he shows his girlfriend his first art piece that was inspired by Candyman after hearing this story. And he's like, a quote from the film is, he asked her, so how is it hitting you? And she says, it's painful. And I thought that that was very what do you call it, foreshadowing of her, because one of the ending scenes is with her, and I just felt like she experienced so much trauma. You will see in this film that Brianna, she experiences so much trauma, from her father to now her boyfriend. And her brother Troy in the film says, you don't have to be there every time a tortured artist has a psychotic breakdown. And so he knows, like, their father committed suicide in the film. And so, you know, Troy knows. And I guess, you know, we all have our different ways of coping with traumatic experiences. So when she said, so when Anthony asked her how the artwork is hitting her, when she said it's painful, kind of tells or paints a picture about how she feels about, you know, the experience, you know, of what she went through as a child, and the ending trauma that she experiences in this film. I have a quote written here about the critic, the artist, the art critic that witnesses his art. So he puts his art in his art museum, and it's just simply a mirror. It's a mirror that says Candyman, and it says, say my name. The art is titled Say My Name. And so one of the things the critic said is artists descend upon disenfranchised neighborhoods, looking for cheap rent or divining cheap rent so that they can mess around. She says something else, but I'm just keeping it PG. Mess around in their studios without the crushing burden of a day job. And I thought that quote was a little hitting. Like, it was like, wow, like, you think that. I have an appreciation for artists because they're going out there and they're saying, you know, I'm not giving myself any other options. This is my goal. Whether you are a painter or a musician or a graphic designer or a set designer for theater or whatever it may be, you're taking the chance on yourself to put that art out there. Even a filmmaker, like, you're taking a chance to put your art into the world, and it sometimes is an extension of you. And so very fitting that this art and this whole film, the story, is an extension of Anthony. And it even says that in like the log line or the kind of the synopsis. When I looked it up, it said he is in a collision course with his destiny. And you will definitely see that in the film. He is on a crash course, you know, fighting within himself, or not even within himself, but within the destiny that was put upon him. And so he gets bit by a bee. while he's exploring Cabrini Green for his art inspiration, and his hand begins to rot, and I'm like, okay, this is symbolic. and so another thing in the film that I didn't realize he wanted, but he once the first murder happens, he is surprised that it was surrounded by his art, and them saying his name. They said, the news reporter was like, in this murder happened in front of the artist Anthony McCoy's piece, Say My Name. And he's like, wow, they said my name. So in this film, I had no idea that he wanted the fame. Like, he wanted to be infamous. And I thought, maybe that was also foreshadowing of his destiny that they talk about. We meet William Burke. So William Burke is the character that he meets when he's exploring Cabrini Green. Anybody from Chicago, let me know in the comments. But if Cabrini Green is torn down, what was the area that he was searching? Is there still like a project or neighborhood that is still up in that area? Or is it completely gentrified? So let me know. I'm not sure. I didn't do my research on it. But that was my initial thought was, okay, are there still some areas that aren't gentrified yet that he was exploring? But that's where he meets William Burke. And William Burke still stays in the neighborhood. He was one of the kids that had met face to face with Candyman. And I just thought his character, it was awesome that he had this thing for laundry. We meet him as a boy doing laundry. That's the opening scene. And we meet him in the middle of the film, and he owns a laundromat, or at least he's a manager of a laundromat. And he is pushing this story onto Anthony. And he said, they love what we make, but not us. So he said, they love what we make, but not us. And I just thought that was kind of interesting when you think about appropriation and like the style and the fashion being appropriated to some degree. I think that makes sense. Like there are so many Black artists that don't get credit, but they, things will go viral and the Black artists not get credit for it. So I do believe that happens a lot of times. And I like that there are different platforms and programs out supporting Black artists, Black creators, Black inventors, like, companies like Target and, really working with Black creators like the Tabitha Brown, her collection in Target, and countless other people. But I think companies are really becoming aware of our voices and not just robbing us of it, but like allowing us to be partners in that. And I also wrote that she is basically dating her dad. Like, she had a void that needed to be filled, and she saw that in Anthony, referring to Brianna. So I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, okay, so are all the white people being killed in this movie? Usually in horror films, there's a thing where the Black guy gets killed first, or the Black person gets killed first. And in this film, they're all white people getting killed. So I don't know if that's a spoiler, but yeah, that happens. He finally gets his hand checked out. Thank goodness. I'm like, you are riding away here. So he finally gets his hand checked out at River North Memorial at the hospital. And he's like, from the very beginning, he said that he was born in Bronzeville. Or is it Bronzeville? Yeah, Bronzeville or Brownsville. Bronzeville. And I'm guessing that's on the south side of Chicago. But it turns out that he was born in River North Memorial. So then the story begins to pick up on this guy and his destiny. Um, like I said, Tony Todd plays Daniel Robotel. I'm horrible at names. I'm so sorry for the actors. Don't mean to get your name wrong. I will learn your names. And like I was mentioning, this film is very heavy on the social commentary on racism. And so if you are looking at this film as a remake, it's not necessarily a remake. It takes the mythology of Candyman and applies it to its own story. And my last note that I have is my last two notes that I have is Brianna's experience is filled with such trauma. Like, we even have a scene with the police, and then, you know, going into an area and reacting first. We all kind of know what that results in, but I just feel like her experience as we know her is very traumatic. Check the film out. I feel like the characters were pretty well rounded. The acting was great, and I just love seeing the complexions on the screen. Like, everybody looked good. The lighting, I keep going back to the lighting. It really captured everyone's complexion and essence, and their faces were beautiful. I just really loved it. The representation on it was amazing to me. It was very artsy. The film was very artsy. How they detailed the tale at the beginning with, I forget the name of the lady that they're depicting as kind of like the villain of the film. She basically was someone, a journalist, a white journalist coming into the area and getting information on the community, and she ends up wreaking havoc in the community. That tale was all done in shadow cutouts. So I thought that was very artistic. And the overall premise is just, you know, white supremacy taking over and terrorizing Black people. So that was a social commentary that was woven throughout the film, and I believe the first Candyman has that premise, but I will not be watching the first one. I think I watched it as a child or had some inkling of it when I was little, but I won't be watching it because from what I've read, they do a great job of making it suspenseful and scary. So this one was great. It was a story all of its own, and like I said, the lighting was on point, the mood was defined, and it's overall a film that it would be good to watch. Yeah, so thank you so much for watching, and I can't wait to see you in the next review, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.